my story is my wife's best friend ended her own life a couple years ago, and that's the reason for this.
Wow.
And
I'm sorry.
so it's actually okay. It's just that she was never told how good she was. And that's my whole
Mhm.
thing is like, I want to say to people, you know what? Yeah, you may have fucked this up, but you're awesome in this category. You're awesome in this category. You're awesome here. You're awesome there. You might
Right.
suck at this, but what the fuck does what you suck at actually matter?
Right.
What,
Right.
like, so Olga, tell your story however you want to tell it. Whether it's about your son, I've heard about an amazing situation there. I've heard about you storming out, defending your guy farmer. I just want to hear whatever you want to say. I will interject here and there. That's it.
Okay. Well, I guess, well, I'm going to be 60 this year. So we'll just say right off the bat, I'm about to turn 60 this year. This is the big year.
All right.
Um, so obviously I'm Southern, born in Atlanta, Georgia. Um, got pregnant at 17, had a baby.
Okay.
And that's my oldest son who will be 42 this year.
I'm 40. I'm
Yeah.
41. So that
Yeah. So my
wow.
son's going to be 42, my oldest one, and he had ADHD with aggression,
Yeah.
seeing it, how it
Yep.
affected him, how he had to deal with everything, the struggles that he had in school,
Yeah.
um, just the whole thing, and
Yeah.
then oh, it was just terrible. And then the drugs that they used to give him back in the 90s, I mean,
Awful.
it was
Awful.
it was like a zombie. If you wanted them
Yeah.
to behave in school, then basically you drugged them to the point where they just almost slobbered on themselves, and it was shit. It was terrible.
They couldn't be themselves.
No, he
And
had no,
that's
it took it robbed them of their personality.
absolutely, absolutely it did. I used to hide my pills in toast and put them
Yeah,
under the house because I didn't want to accept that like I needed medication because it was presented to me so poorly to where
correct.
it was, you know what, you're not right. You're not right. So
Well,
here
yeah, because it's basically somebody telling you, well, you're not good enough. You have to do this in order for us to deal with you. And
exactly.
it's just a terrible thing, to
It
have to go
is.
through.
It
So
is.
seeing it from that aspect, and then my second child, my second son, he had speech impediment, really, really, really bad. So
Fascinating.
we had to do lots of exercises with him. He saw a speech therapist for years. So he got bullied a lot in school because of that. He had to go through his own hell, you know,
Yeah.
and watching that again,
So
and as a parent, you do a lot. You do as much as you can possibly do, but you're not there all the time.
right. So Olga, my mom is a speech pathologist. I had
So,
yeah, she was like, "You're dyslexic, you're ADHD, you're this, you're that, and the other. I'm taking you to the doctor." But the one thing she did that was great, she allowed me to wear a Superman cape to class. I think I
there you
just
go.
took it off like maybe a week ago, but but she allowed that, and when they sent me home because it wasn't quote part of the dress code, she goes, "Put that shit back on, go back up there."
There you go. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
You do.
that's my privilege. That's my advantage. It's like at age 5, she knew.
Yeah.
And
That's
that's
awesome.
yeah, it really I like to destroy my mom in every episode I do because I love her to death.
That's
That's
amazing. That's great.
it is. So
But
continuing on with
well, yeah. So then going at it from that, then I divorced with 3 kids, single mom, many years, dealing with a lot. My 2 boys really, they really put me through a lot. And, getting arrested, some of them doing just different. My middle one, he tried to sell oregano at school, for what, and ended up getting expelled. So basically, it was quite the challenge
expelled for
getting these
oregano.
two.
I'm sorry. I
Well, it wasn't the first, thing he had done.
okay. All right. Because if I'm the school and I'm going,
It
Yeah,
was
he was just
oregano.
trying to make some
Well, maybe
money.
it was
Like,
first or the second or the third or, whatever.
okay,
But when you
right.
sit in front of this, what do they call? They called it a tribunal. So we had to
My
go to
God.
tribunal
Yeah,
like
I
3 or 4 times, and after like that, it was like, no, you're just done. You're just
unbelievable.
done.
Unbelievable.
So yeah, so fast forward, many, many years later, and I'm remarried, I married a military guy, Navy guy. He was in there for 26 years. Yeah, it's amazing. Military, woohoo. But the military on this side of it, the mental health, they trained them for everything in life except how to live without them. So when someone gets out of
Wow.
the military
Wow.
after a lifetime of service, they truly are lost. They truly just don't know what to do with themselves, how to go about life, how to live as a civilian, because they've had a role, they've had a very
Right.
specific role for many years, and that's what they know to do.
Yeah.
And that was very difficult. That has been a very, very
Wow.
hard,
That's a
yeah,
great way of putting that because I think the prison system is the same kind of thing where you're in prison for 30 years and then you get out. And I'm not saying that military is, in prison. What I'm saying is when you're so used to one way of doing things and then you get out of that comfort,
yep.
it's what
Hmm.
the fuck do I do now?
Exactly, exactly. They're
And
freaking lost. And
yeah,
then a lot of times when you add substance abuse
yeah,
on top of that, because let's face it, a lot of the people in the military have a lot of issues, and a lot of it's got alcohol related. If
it's
you're a
because they
sailor,
can't
if you're in
cope
the
any other
military, it's
way.
like,
They can't cope any other
no,
way. It's like you see your best friend eh,
yeah,
die in front of you. How the
yeah,
fuck else are you going to cope with that?
yeah,
Okay, so like I get that. Like
oh
I
yeah.
understand, but it's not
But it all
supported.
contributes to the whole thing. So if you've
Yeah,
got any kind of mental thing going on at
yeah,
all, and then you've got this going on, and then you've got this, it's very hard.
yeah.
I'll just say that I mean, we've been married now almost 20 years, been together almost 23 years, but it's been very hard at times with the
Yeah.
mental thing. Yeah.
Yeah, my thing to that is, life is a brutal fucking piece of shit. Like it just is. But
Oh, for sure.
what worth having is easy. And so going through these things that you are probably still currently are, or maybe not. I can't
Well,
assume that.
no, I mean,
But
that's always an ongoing thing, the whole
right,
substance, the whole addiction, the whole,
yeah,
that's always ongoing,
right,
but then you add other things into it, like what I went through with my middle son
yeah.
and his girlfriend, who is
Oh
currently
goodness.
still locked up in a prison in Thailand, um, for signing for a package, basically. It was a setup, and now she's doing time, a lot of time. And we're hoping that maybe in the next few years, we can get her out. But it's going to take a lot of exposure. It's going to take a lot of effort on our part to keep her name and her face out there because, as we all see, and like you just said, life is shit. Oh
It
my
is.
God, every moment there's something happening somewhere with somebody, and life changes, and then we move on. We go from this story to that story to that story, and the atrocities just keep piling up, but for us, we have to try to keep focused, and try to keep her her name out there, her face out there, her story out there,
Okay, so
you know.
two things. You're the most fascinating person I've ever spoken with immediately. Guy predicted this, of course. Second is I want you to feel free to literally explain all of that scenario, names, whatever, so that we can help. Because no one deserves to be locked up in a fucking Thailand prison for signing for a goddamn package.
No.
Like, I'm sorry. Like, that's
Well,
just,
no, and especially
I,
when it was honestly, I mean, what they were doing, it was for the expats that live on the islands. They go over there and they party. And so basically it was party drugs. And you know, they got it was a setup.
Yeah.
But
They lured
there's a
him
lot of
in.
people that are guilty. I mean,
Yeah.
my son's not innocent. He was doing stuff. He was providing a service. They knew the risk. But she doesn't deserve what she got. She was definitely the fall guy in this whole thing. She's totally the victim.
So she's in a prison in Thailand right now.
Yes. Her name is Ashley Oosthuizen, and she is a beautiful blonde, blue-eyed girl. She's just turned 23, 24 this year. She got life. Well, let's just back up. For
L-
at first, she was sentenced to death. But then
Oh,
they showed
sounds
mercy on
logical.
her. Sure. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, why not?
Yeah, of course.
Um, it's
Jesus.
Thailand. Why not? We can do what we want.
Right.
So they showed mercy. And so now they've lowered it to life in prison. But she's 23 years old. So, and she's already been there for 3 years. So, yeah, we're trying everything we can to get her out. Her mom is living over there now, close to the prison, so she can visit with her. I think there's a Facebook page for her. My son has a site that he has set up for her as well, and he has written a book that he has coming out next month. And that book and all of the donations are going to be sent to her to try to get her out.
Help.
It's like you can't make this shit up, I mean, this is
No, you
like
can't.
like
It's Otto Warmbier when
yeah,
he
and so it was so crazy because then after, so talk about mental health stuff. So after this
Jesus.
happened, after she got locked up, so of course, and my son, it's his fault, he blames himself. And so he has had a real struggle, with, blaming and the guilt, the shame. How do I go on? How do I even live? How do I breathe knowing that she's in there? And so for a while, he pretty much made himself a prison. Well, he went to war. He went to the Ukraine and he fought for
Oh
6 months on
shit.
the front lines. He even sent me video of this guy with his leg getting blown off. I mean, it's brutal. So he went over there, and I think he went over there I think he went over there honestly so he would get killed, because it
Yeah.
was that point. Rather than kill himself, it's like, well, at least if I go over there, I can die with some honor and some
Yep.
dignity, you know?
Yep.
So, but that was brutal
Absolutely.
for me because I mean, I understand where he's coming from, but then as a mother, I'm like, that's my child, you know? And I'm watching this and knowing that, well, he's sending me this message like, well, we might be leaving in the next 6 hours and wish us luck. Because on one of the missions, 11 went out and 8 came back. And then on another one, 7 went out and 4 came back. So it's like, you know, so you
And
got
you
that shit
and
going
you're the
on.
mother.
Yeah.
The
And
mother
I'm,
of
so in
both
the meantime,
scenarios of how's that working out? Like I mean, that's
it
jeez.
wasn't very good. My mental health was
I,
about down the tubes during that period of time. And Guy can probably attest to that because I'll tell you, I
excellent.
was trying to go to work and hold it together. And there were some days that was better than others. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
but I think you did what your son would do is when Guy got fired, you were like, no, fuck you, he's a good person.
Yeah.
So you instilled those things in your son to where he's like, all right, I'm struggling a lot, but I'm still gonna fight.
Right. And so now he's back. He came back, but he
Oh,
struggled.
thank God.
He struggled for a while. He pretty much made himself his own prison because I felt like he was, if she's in prison, then I'm going to be in prison. If she's not having any joy, then I'm not going to allow myself to feel joy. That sort of thing.
Yeah, and that's oh my God, I would love to talk to your son at some point, like at
He
any
would
time for like
probably,
five
yeah,
minutes, just for five
yeah.
minutes, because if you've ever seen the movie Castaway, I know it's with Tom Hanks and all that kind of shit. When he
Hmm.
gets back, he just keeps flicking the lighter and he sleeps on
Yeah.
the floor because that's what he's used to doing.
Right.
And that's so it's okay to do those things. The biggest issue right now is getting the love of his life out of a goddamn
Got it.
Thailand prison. I'm sorry.
Exactly.
Like that is uh,
Yeah.
that
Well,
makes me so mad. Like
yeah, yeah. It's been devastating. It's really been devastating, and that bless her heart. But she, like I said, he's got this book coming out. It's called The Shepherd.
the
You
shepherd.
can read an
Okay.
excerpt. Yeah, you can actually, let's see, he's got a thing here. You can read an excerpt at theshepherdnovel.com.
Can you
Um,
type that out and email or send it to me so that I can promote the
Yeah,
living shit out of that.
absolutely.
Yeah,
And
I
basically,
mean,
what we're
I'm not a
doing,
big time person. I'm just saying, like,
so that's her.
she's very attractive.
And basically, what we're doing is buy a book, save a life. So it's just,
Yeah,
it's an ongoing thing, an ongoing thing.
she's still in prison.
Yeah.
That girl is in prison
Suffering.
in
That girl
Thailand.
is in prison and probably sleeping on a cot or maybe on a mat with about 30 other women in a very crowded cell. Gets an hour of daylight a day, and that's about it. So, it's Thailand. My son, up until all this happened, I mean, he even owned a biscuit restaurant out there. I mean, he was doing so well before all this happened. But
It's because they. I'm sorry, I'm going to say this, but a lot of other entities like Thailand prey on Americans. Thing is, she's not weak, neither is your son. The problem is they lure them in to these situations and then hoard it over that other person. And that
well,
that is
yes, it's angering. And the thing is that right afterward, and he outed himself. You can go onto Facebook, you can not Facebook. Yes, you can go to Facebook, you can go into Google, you can Google his name, you can Google her name. Their whole story will come up. The whole thing,
beautiful.
the whole story,
Good.
everything, it'll come up. Um, I
Good.
lost my train, but yes, I
No,
mean,
no,
it's
it's fine.
just,
It's just it's sad to me that people. I mean,
well,
this
the
is the
thing is
most
that what they don't
fascinating
know
thing
is
I've ever heard. Of
when it all blew up, this is it. They annihilated him online. I mean, he was made out to
course,
be freaking the Antichrist.
of course.
And, basically, and I was too. I mean, anybody that, because I was sharing the information. So obviously I was the devil's mother.
Lobau Spark has started a fundraising effort for Crisis Text Line. We have a goal of $19 per episode, as $19 supports just one person in their time of absolute crisis with their mental health. If you would like to donate to our fundraiser titled Lauren's Infinity, the link is listed in the episode's description. Lauren was my wife's best friend and loved by all who came into contact with her.
And what kind of piece of shit mother? Yeah, what kind of piece of shit mother was I that I would raise this piece of shit, that he would do this and blah, blah, blah. I mean, people are vicious, people are cruel, people judge you very harshly. And
Yeah,
so we went through all of this as a family, but we did come together as a family that made us stronger, honestly, because we were like, we're not going to let this shit happen to us. These bastards are not going to just keep going on, because what they didn't know behind the scenes is that every cent that my son was making was going to a lawyer. The lawyer ended up being crooked and took everything because, once
okay.
again, he's not in the same country to do all this, because he had to leave the country. He wasn't even in the country when all this went down. And the other thing that people really, I mean, this to
Jesus.
me is really stupid, because they kept going, well, if you feel so bad about what happened, you just go over there and you turn yourself in. You just trade you for her. And it's like, do you really in your wildest dreams think that would actually happen? If he went over there and turned himself in, they would just capture him and keep her. They
Right.
would have two,
That's a fucking
not
cop
just
out
one.
statement from whoever is saying that. That's a
It,
cop out
it,
statement.
Exactly. And then
Like,
if he's locked up, who is going to be out here fighting for her like that
right.
and doing what it takes and sacrificing basically all their time and effort into trying to get her out if he's behind bars? It's heartbreaking, honestly. I mean, just it's
It's
every
just,
day it's heartbreaking, because I think about her every day.
yeah.
He lives and breathes her every moment of every day. It's just something it's there all the time, all the time.
So you can actually never really relax.
No. No,
That's
and I mean, it's not even my daughter. She's not they weren't married. She's not my daughter-in-law, but this
I
child
know, but it's someone
is,
you cared about. Like,
yes, yes, and she
that's
doesn't deserve that. She just doesn't
no,
deserve what's
no.
happened to her. And
And
it's just horrible.
honestly, so you mentioned ADHD earlier with your son,
Yeah.
correct?
Yep.
The good part about ADHD is that he will dog this to death until she's okay.
Oh yeah.
The bad part
Is that
is
he'll dog it to death.
that he'll dog it to death.
Yeah.
Right. And but you don't want anyone else helping like this than your son. Because
Mm-mm.
with ADHD, you latch onto something, you will never stop. You will never stop. And
Yeah.
that's, I honestly, I can't hold a finger or a any sort of comment to what you've been through. What I will say is that I think it'll work out because you have a lot of mentally fucked up people in your family that will love each other so well that by the end of the day, we'll get her out.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that's
Oh yeah, for
no,
sure.
being
Somebody's gonna
mentally
go
fucked up,
batshit crazy.
right? And then they'll win. In the
Yeah.
end, all of a sudden she'll come home and it's like, how the fuck did you do that? Well, because maybe we're better than you at a lot of things.
Right.
Maybe we suck at goddamn dishes or making the bed or whatever, but Jesus Christ, we
Well,
got
we
her
might be
out.
better at that. That's one of the things. This is a funny anecdote, but when my kids were growing up, the one thing that I always kidded them about, and this was just our family way of loving each other. But if one of my kids would go, I just can't do that. And I'd be like, you know why? You want to know why you can't do that? Because you suck.
Now, now, this, but what you did there is,
And they loved it.
is
And then we would just
motivated
laugh.
them to be like, no, I don't suck. Watch me. I'll make the bed. Watch me. I'll make the bed.
Oh
Like,
my God. It was so fun, but oh my, that's our family thing. And we would laugh and laugh
that
and
is
laugh. And
so
I'll tell you
funny.
what, and my son,
I,
the middle one, one
yeah,
day he didn't come home. I had come home early from work. I'm at home. My daughter comes home, not my son. I'm like, where's Seth? Have you seen it? I thought wasn't he on the bus with you?
right.
She goes, no, he wasn't. So I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, well, I guess I'm going to have to either drive up to the school or call the school, figure out something. And the phone rings and it's the school. And they've got my son in the office
Yep.
and they found a note on him and they think it's a suicide note. And so they start talking to me about Miss Nettles. Your son, he wrote this and blah, blah, blah. And it gets to the end and it goes, P.S. I suck. And I lost it. I immediately busted out laughing because I knew it was a joke at this point. He wasn't
Right.
doing anything. He was writing something because this is how his mind thinks. This is how his mind thinks. He wanted them to find the note. He wrote it on purpose so they would find it just so he could do this, so he could stand back and laugh.
That's so fascinating. That
That's
see,
my middle son. That is him. I'm telling you.
how many children do you have at this
I
point?
birthed three, but I raised four.
Okay. Birth three, raised four. So I'm adopted, so I understand the raised part.
Well, and I'm adopted too.
No shit.
Yep.
I was adopted at birth, actually.
Me
What is
too.
your no
Adopted at birth.
shit?
Yes, but the fascinating story is that my birth mother lived with my parents for 6 weeks before I was born. And
No
so they,
way.
yeah, and this was way back in 1964. And yeah, so they took her to the hospital when she went to labor. They paid for everything. And so when the doctor came out, and I was born at Crawford W. Long Hospital in Atlanta, Georgia, and my doctor was Dr. Crawford W. Long. And when he came out in the waiting room, he told my parents, he said, congratulations, you have a baby daughter. And he goes, this is the very first time I've ever come to a waiting room to tell this to both the parents.
It's because my mom put the Superman cape on me and said, you know what, go up there and do what you love.
There you go.
And it, she literally described it to me as it doesn't matter what like everyone else is going to say. I'm going to get on your ass for not making a passing grade in math, but I have to. I'm your mother. But honestly, behind the surface, I don't give a shit.
Right. Right.
Like,
Exactly. I just want you to be happy,
right,
well-rounded,
right,
somewhat educated and smart,
exactly, exactly. Which is, I
and I
think,
don't want you to be perfect. Yeah.
right, which is exactly what I think you're doing with your son to give him the ability to put on the Superman cape and get this girl out of Thailand.
Exactly. And they've already taken so much. They've already taken, I'm sure, between what her parents have already spent and between
Right.
what my son has put in, it's well over 150 to $200,000 on
Okay.
their part in the last 3 years, because every dime that my son makes goes,
And
towards.
they won't accept any of that money, or do they accept it and then just say, "Oh, thank you," and then keep her in jail? Like
Yeah,
that's
they keep her in jail and they put it into an account. So, so they say. Now, we don't know about this, obviously.
of course.
And of course, 60,000 of it went toward one of the corrupt attorneys. We
Right.
know that 60,000 of it is just gone. He took it.
So you need a good attorney. You need
A legitimate attorney. Yes, a legitimate attorney. See, our problem that we've been running into is that Ashley is South African. Ashley is not American. She's not an American citizen.
that's
We can't go through the U.S. Embassy. And South Africa does not have an embassy in Thailand.
it is time once again to recognize the biggest supporters of this podcast. Lobau Spark is proudly supported by Leo Guinan, Kirk Hofstrom, Casey Elliott, Sarah Delano, Justin Allingham, Blushing Crafter, Jamie Young, and Beth Jones. It is now also supported by 13 anonymous supporters. And I understand that because I can curse and all that kind of shit. I get it. I get it. If you want to support this podcast anonymously, you are free to do so. It's totally fine. But this does not exist without you. And I love you. Okay. How do we do this?
We just need to get her face out there. We need to do,
Okay.
we've got to get her name, her face. The book. He's got the book coming out. Maybe some fundraisers. We did a couple of things back in the fall to try to raise some money, and it went fairly well.
When
But
does
it was
the book
local.
come out? Is basically
March the 12th.
March the 12th. Okay. Can we expedite that to like tomorrow? Sorry,
Well,
I have
wish.
ADHD. And
Yeah,
like,
right.
now.
I wish, but once again, you can read the excerpt and pre-order. You can pre-order, and like I said, every dollar. I think that's $10 for the pre-order for the book. Read the excerpt,
and
if
that
you like
will
it.
help.
It all goes toward her.
All right. So what I would like you to do, if you can, is send me every link, every single thing that someone can buy or donate or whatever to my email, please.
I can do that.
Okay.
And you can read the whole story, but they coerced her. I mean, they had her in there for hours in Thailand and made her sign things in Thailand. She didn't know. It was all such a sham. Ugh, it makes me sick.
Yeah, it makes me sick too. I do have to ask you, and this will be in the podcast. And by the way, after I ask you this question, we're gonna hop back on another call that's not recorded, so I can get to know you a little better because you are fucking fascinating.
Thanks.
Yeah. So, what, Olga, in your life are you most proud of? Now, here's the thing: it cannot be, I married this person, I had this son. It has to be a characteristic within you that you are the most proud of.
I feel like I'm most proud of the fact that I am a open-minded and open-hearted individual, that I'm open to change, I'm open to hear people, I'm open to experience new things, look at it through other people's eyes. I'm just open. I think I'm just open.
Love it. Thank you so much, Olga, and we will talk again soon.